Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to this beautiful channel. My name is Tuyiri, and you're welcome. Welcome to our episode of Tribe Talk, okay? If you're new here, thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. Join the tribe. Hit the subscription box. The subscribe button is free. Guys, it's free. So I don't know why this behavior, I don't like it. I don't appreciate it. Subscribe, please. And if you don't like it, then it's okay. You don't have to subscribe. Be going. Be going because they will beg you people how many times. But anyways, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And yeah, let's get into this video. Here with me is the beautiful. Is the beautiful.
Talk Ep.2.
I'm screaming. Anyways, I feel like this is our first time filming a video together. This is my sister, guys. If you didn't know, get to know. You can find her
at Talk Ep.2.
That's where you can find her. And she has a YouTube channel at
Talk Ep.2.
Okay.
We keep it consistent in this house.
Okay, so if you don't know, get to know. And if you don't know me, my name is Tuyiri, as I've previously said. You can reach me here on YouTube at Tuyiri. You can reach me on Instagram at Tuyiri_, and you can reach me on TikTok at Tuyiri_2, okay? We're consistent over here, okay? Get to know it. Okay, guys, so we're basically going to be talking about boarding school in Lagos, Nigeria, because that's where we've only gone to boarding school, in Lagos, Nigeria. And we are going to be talking about our experience as boarders and, if we will be doing that to our children. And, yeah, let's get into this video, okay? It's probably going to be a long one, so get your snack, get your drink, and, come on with us, okay? Let's get into it, okay? All right, talk about. So at what age did you get into boarding school?
I think, I'm pretty sure I was 10 years old when I first started boarding school. Were you 10 years old?
I was 10. I was 10. I don't know. I don't know the thought process behind sending us. We don't know what we're doing. You're sending us to boarding school.
Like now that I'm grown,
I don't like everything was being done for me, and I'm going to boarding school. Come on,
you talk to 10-year-olds now, and you're like, dang, I was
I was living by myself.
I had to wash my own clothes.
Yeah, I had to figure out my how to be independent.
They still stuff for me, and I have to stand around like,
what happened? Come on now. Anyways, just for background knowledge, we went to secondary school in Lagos, Nigeria. We went to a missionary school, if you can call it that. We were not members of that church.
No, we were
not members of that church. I think our mom's reasoning, because we are 5 children, right? And my mom's reasoning was she sent the first one to Seth, the first 2 to Seth. And then she was like, oh, wow, like, it's not giving what it's supposed to give. So she was like, you know what? Let us send these next batch to Christian schools, like missionary schools, where like, they carry the word of God on their heads and they move around.
Oh, this was serious.
And this is actually carrying on their head, for real.
For real. Anyway, they were choking you with it.
They were. They for real were. And I don't, like, if would you ever send your child to a boarding school?
I feel like it depends.
Okay. What does it depend on?
Oh my gosh, that's a very good question. It depends on the age of the child.
Okay.
It depends on like what the vibe of the boarding school is.
Okay.
I think that those are the 2 dependages. Oh, it also depends on like how my child is. I feel like people like decide like one formula is good for children based upon like every child is different.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yo, if my kid needs a little bit more one-on-one time, but you don't have to. Like, first of all, I don't think I'm sending my kids to boarding school, flat period. But if I were to be interested, like if I were to find a boarding school I'm interested in now, if I had a kid who was needing more one-on-one based time, I'm not sending them to boarding school.
Yeah, fair.
But if I have a kid who I feel like will thrive in a more in an environment where they had to be more independent, then I'll be like, okay, let's see. Maybe for like 16, and literally that's when you guys graduated boarding school.
Yeah. Anyways, for me, I would say probably like I don't know if I want to send my children to boarding school. I don't know. I just like it's not like something that in my mind I'm like I want to send my children to boarding school. If I had the option, probably not. But I feel like it also depends, like you said, on like I guess like the kind of institution. So if they're going for like an arts program or a music program,
Yeah.
and the program is only like in that boarding school, and they really want to go for that, then all well and good. But I'm not just like sending my children to boarding school.
Yeah.
Now, initially, when my mom sent me to boarding school, I had the mentality of like, oh, they wanted to ship me away. And the thing is that I was never a problem child. I never stressed my parents out. So I was just like, why would you want to? My options were actually two schools. So the school I went to and then Emerald High School. And at Emerald High School, when I got there, because I didn't go for the interview like everyone was going for their interview, they have to book a separate day for my interview. And when I was in elementary school, primary school, I was really good at spelling. I guess I'm still good at spelling, but like at that stage, I was really good at spelling, right? So when my mom and dad took me for the interview and they gave me like words to spell, and they were like, "Oh wow, you're really good at spelling. You're good for your level." They started giving me like, "Oh, like we want to give you an offer to come to our school, blah blah." Um, this is how we thrive, and they were just trying to sell their school to me, and I bought it because it was in my mind. It was giving American dream. It was like, oh wow, like this is nice. I'm gonna be like
The elite.
I'm gonna be like exactly. And that was like just like at the back of my mind. I was like, okay, I like how this is going on. So my mom had a dream,
Oh.
and I was sent to the school I finished from. Um, so I finished. I started in secondary school at boarding school at the age of 10, as we've already established, and my mind was, oh, they really don't like me for them to have sent me to this school. Because what on earth is this? You're telling me I don't get to see my parents and I can't even see them as I will. I don't get to speak to my parents. It was giving prison because like why do I have to book appointments to speak to my parents? Why can't I just like speak to my parents every day? Like why? But anyways, that's the side. How did you feel about like the whole like calling and visiting system in the boarding
The
school?
calling system was so. Let me tell you, I blame me not liking calls on the calling system from the boarding school because it's like you go to like the person, the house mistress who like has the phone because you're not allowed to have phones, right?
Yeah.
So you go to the house mistress. I want to call my mom, and they ask you why, and in my head I'm like,
Because that's my
if I
mom.
wanted to talk to my mom, I wouldn't need a. I could just go upstairs and start disturbing my mother. I don't need to have a reason to talk to my
Yeah.
mom. Are you like, what's going on? And they ask a reason, and the gag is it's not one of those cases where they just ask a reason and they give you the phone. They
They
ask a
judge
reason and they judge
they
you
try to
and they try to
evaluate if it's like a good
yeah.
reason
They're like trying to
for you to
solve.
speak to your
You tell them you
parents.
have an issue and they're trying to solve it on site. I'm
Yeah,
like, what if
but I
I
want to
actually
speak to
wanted
my
to be solved?
mom.
I'm just giving you. I'm just telling
That's
you
my
anything.
mom. Like, and I understand, like, because, like, I guess, like, the billing system for phones works differently than here in Canada. Here in Canada, you can just, I guess, like, they pay as you go plans, but, like, the current plan we have, you pay for your bill for the month, and then
And then
you call
yeah,
unlimited
no
calls
matter
and
how
texts
yeah,
and whatever, however long you want to speak on the phone, you can
yeah,
speak on the phone for that long. But in Nigeria, you like recharge your balance, and then you have basically you have limited call time,
yeah,
and your call time is dependent on how much money you have recharged on your
yes.
phone. So like I understand that okay, like they're doing us a favor. Our parents like we're not buying their credits, so that we're not buying their
However,
recharge card.
they
So
should have
then
had that in plan when they were making the system.
yes, because I feel like you kind of got benefits like if your parents would like give like the hostel masters and mistresses, if they would give them like money and stuff like that or like gifts, you
Hmm.
had the higher tendency to make as much calls as you wanted, which I can now understand because like oh like you're
Yeah,
paying what they're going to be using to like recharge their phone and all of that.
yeah.
But it still doesn't make sense to me because I'm still a child. I'm 10 years old.
I just think they should have like
I
integrated
want my
it.
mommy.
They should have integrated it into the school fees.
They should
They
have.
should have a little section,
Oh, who knows?
the
Maybe
call
they actually
fee.
did and we just didn't know because we were children. What did we know about school
That is
fees?
true.
Because we were paying a good amount as a school fees. But like,
That's what my thing is. You're a house mistress, and I'm not even fully blaming only the house mistress.
yeah,
I'm blaming the whole school.
the school
You're
system.
you're a house mistress, which means you're in charge of. You're basically the thing standing between the kid and the parents.
Yeah.
and a kid wants to talk to their parent a lot. So why wouldn't there be a system in place for that? Why wouldn't you have like, oh, even if they were going to like limit it, because at the end of the day they're using their money to pay for the phone to do all the business.
Yeah.
I think the school should have paid for a specific phone that kids could use to
call their parents.
So it's not even just, oh, the house mistress is using the personal phone. That's why you're basically they're doing you a favor.
I'm doing you a favor.
It shouldn't have to be in a favor, right?
Yeah. I feel like, especially having children that age, they should have good communication with their parents. They should be able to speak to their parents minimum 3 times in a week.
10 to 16-year-old.
And I understand. And the thing is that we were a lot in boarding school. We were a lot of children in that school. Like, I feel like each set had like minimum of like 100 people in it.
Yeah. And that's like on the lower end.
And that's on the lower end. A minimum of 100 people in that set. So, like, if you're thinking from like grade like GS1, that's grade 7 to like grade 12, that's SS3, then you'll be looking at like 600 students minimum. 600 students minimum. And it was a really big school. Like, minimum. That's on your minimum. Anyways, that was that on the calling system. Now, what was one thing you felt like, oh, like, I guess like in like boarding school, what was one core memory like you cannot forget? Like, we'll look at the education aspect, we'll look on the social aspect, and we'll look at the Christianity aspect of things. So we'll first start with the education aspect. What was one key thing that you feel like, oh, like turned your life around in that school, like, or like you were like, oh, you looked at sideways, like?
Oh, the fact that after school is over, teachers could summon you from your hostel. Because imagine, for example, people who don't go to boarding schools, once school is over and you've gone to your home, imagine your teacher pulling up to your house and being like, hey, come, like, follow me back to my office all the way in school. We're going to do such and such. We're going to go chat about your grades.
That's crazy.
We're gonna do a little bit extra
actually
work.
Crazy.
Why wouldn't you have just told me from the get-go? Why would you just tell me? Why would you pull up? It was like very like flash.
I think because they had the access,
whiplash,
like,
right?
Boarding school, right?
Boarding school. So the teacher
taking liberty for granted.
I'm like, what are you? It's literally that one meme. It was like, what are you doing here?
Oh. My thing would be what do you call it? In terms of education, it would be when I was in GS3. And they make us write like exams. First off, they make you write like placement exams in GS3 after you're done with like NECO and Junior WAEC and Lagos State NECO and all of that fun stuff. When you're done with all those exams, they make you internally write an exam, which is a placement test, where they place you in like the science class, the art class, or like
the business.
Commercial class, so business class, and you'd have to like pass all of the tests like you like sufficiently, like have a good grade for you to get to pick like whichever class. So basically they're placing you and they're telling you what you'll do in your future. That made no sense to me, because I remember that during the placement test I had Apollo. If you know Apollo, you're basically blind. You cannot see. And I wrote that test with Apollo because I did not have exemption. With like blur, basically all I could see was blurs, but I wrote that test and I passed my test. So, and initially all of us wanted to be doctors when we were growing up, right? So I wanted to be a quote unquote doctor. I actually didn't know what I wanted to be. I wanted to be so many things in life. If I listed it for you guys would be like, only you won. But I was like, I wanted to be a doctor, so I was like, oh, I'm going to science class, and I passed my placement test. Now, when one of our, I don't know if it was NECO or Lagos State, when one of our results got back, they were telling my mom, because we had then resumed school, and before we resumed school, there was Ebola happening. That was the time of Ebola. So we weren't allowed to come back to school. So that was their first attempt of online learning. That they sent us assignments and they were like, oh, like prepare yourself for school and all of that. And mind you, this is my first time being in a science class, right? So, like, I have no idea of physics, biology, and I didn't even like the sciences. I don't even know. I just wanted to help people. I wanted to be an ophthalmologist. I just wanted to help people see. That's what I wanted.
So
That's all
ironic.
that's what
You
I
couldn't see during your
your
test.
test. That's all I
That's how
wanted.
people see.
I wanted to be an ophthalmologist. I wanted to help people see. So I had done all the assignments for like physics, biology. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. Chemistry, and I had my notebooks, everything wrapped. Guys, are you deep in this? I was so prepared for my science class. The first day of school, that was sometime in October, because I know the whole of September we couldn't go to school because of Ebola. The first day of school, I remember us getting to class, and then they told all of us to come out. And when we all came out, they were like, "Oh, like your Lagos State and NECO results have come out and blah blah blah. So when we call your name, you can pick whichever class you want to go to." So they called the first batch of sets of people's name, and me, I was expecting to hear my name because I passed my placement test. So I was like, no brainer, I get to pick whichever class I want to go to, science, arts, and commercial. So they said that, oh, like when it finally got to me, they're like, oh, like you get to pick between arts and commercial, and I'm like, what? Like, why can't I pick science? And then they didn't even give me a response. So it was basically like pick one or the other. So I picked commercial class because I was like, you know what? Let me just go with commercial class. And like I picked commercial class because like a lot of my friends were going to commercial class, not even because like it basically became the greater of two
Yeah,
evils because I wasn't planning on going to
going to
either
either of
arts or
those.
commercial class. So like it was like, okay, I'll just go to where my friends are going to, and I'll tell my mom, and my mom will figure it out, so we can figure what I'm doing with my life out. So I started my class in the commercial class, and then my mom came to school because I told her that, mommy, they said I cannot go into science class. I was like, what do you mean you cannot go into science class? She came, we went to the office, and they were like explaining to her like, oh, you cannot go into science class because she failed basic science. She failed basic science in Lagos State. I don't know if it was Lagos State. Yeah, it was. I think it was probably Lagos State or NECO. I failed one or the other. I failed basic science in one of them, and they were like, because of that, I cannot go into science class. I say, hey, see, life deciders, oh. So because of basic science, I failed. You don't want to allow me go and help people see. I said okay. My mom was like okay because my mom was basically my school was very strict. So there's like regardless of whatever battle you're fighting, you're not winning because they are very strict to the core. Like if they don't want you inside science class, you're not entering science class. And right now, I'm actually thankful I didn't go to science class because like I feel like that's not my jam. I just like to I like to engage with people. I like the social side of things. I like events, throwing events, hanging out with people, marrying, mingling, all of that fun stuff. That is me. So they told me that, oh, you cannot go to science class. My life shattered before me. My mom said, even if you've decided that you're going to commercial class, you must take literature because you know what? You can decide that because you take literature, you can decide you want to be a lawyer. I was like, you know what? Okay, let's deep that. Okay, actually, let's take that. And I remember everybody in my class because I was the only one in my commercial class taking literature. And then my mom did the same thing to my oldest brother too. She made him take literature because she was like, you don't know what like path you want to fall in, so just take literature as a backup because if you don't take literature now, if you decide you want to be a lawyer, they will not allow you to do law because you did not take the core subjects to do law. I don't know. The whole system is just mental to me. Now that I think about it, it's so crazy to me that they literally made decisions about my future
Yeah.
for me. They didn't give me the option. Like you choose the classes that you want to take, and
Yes.
you keep on taking them. By force, you must thrive. You do lessons.
Literally, yeah.
You take the classes they put in their back. I think they probably didn't want to put in their back into teaching me
No.
because I decided that I didn't want to learn the sciences. But yeah, that was one thing that threw me off until date. Till this day, I think about it and I'm just like, wow, like that was God working, obviously, but like still, the fact that you decided my future for me is crazy. So the religious part of the school was one thing that threw you off about like obviously like guys, we're Christians and we believe in God, we believe in Jesus, but when we tell you that our school was heavily religious, like, and it was not a Catholic school, okay, it was heavily religious. I mean, it was heavily religious, okay, and I'm not bashing them for that, but for the choices they made, and enforced on us, but we're just explaining how that made us feel in that moment. And even now that we've taken a step out of that environment, and we're able to like be like, oh wow, like now that I deep it, like this was actually over the top, or this was like it was never that deep. Do you get?
I think there's a reason I specifically said they were shoving it down your throat, because they painted, mind you, we're Christians, so we have actively chosen to give our life to Christ.
Yeah.
The keyword being chosen.
Yeah.
They made the concept of Christianity out to not be a choice. It is. I don't know how to. No, I do. For example, when you're in the church and they tell you either do this or you're going to die. Okay, in the grand scheme of things, I see what you're trying to tell me. I understand what you're trying to tell me. But when you go to a 10-year-old and you tell them you have to go, and it's like the steps they give you. They tell you you must follow those steps. But let me give you the steps. You have to walk to the front of the church and kneel down and bow your head to the wood of the church, to the stool of the church, and pray while screaming out loud to Christ.
If y'all ain't subscribed yet, subscribe to your Virgo.
It gave very rigid steps to it, whereas if you read the Bible, it's not rigid steps. The only criteria is that you must like go to Jesus. You don't have to be screaming to give your life to Christ, but they basically informed you that you have to go to the front of the church, kneel down, bow your head down, put your head to the wood of the stool, and then scream and yell about giving your life to Christ.
Yeah.
In order to give your life to Christ.
Yeah.
And I realized something, like as children, it was happening every single week.
Yeah.
We go to church.
Yeah.
That was the exact
It happened Sunday, Wednesday, every time you go to church.
Yes, right? So many people were relapsing from being Christian. And I think it's specifically because of how rigid the process was. It's because they were like, you have to do this a very specific way. If not, you were absolutely failing Christ. And now that I've taken a step back and gone back to my Bible, and I'm just like taking religion according to basically just going according to the Bible, I realized like even as little as like you wake up in the morning and you just pray to God, you don't have to yell. And it's not that yelling is a bad thing, but the idea of telling children that you have to be screaming. Because I remember, oh my gosh, I'm such a quiet prayer that back then I would kneel down and I would go like this and I would be praying and whispering like,
and someone is banging on the bench.
And they hit the bench and they yell at me
banging on the bench. I'm trying to connect with my God.
And then I turn and look at them and you can tell my eyes I'm not asleep. And I tell you I'm not sleeping because you know how strong-headed I can be sometimes. And I tell you I'm not sleeping and she tells me I'm not hearing your voice so you're not praying. And in my head I'm like, all right,
that's not how it works.
So you're telling me it's your way or the highway. I'd rather not have your way. I feel like it pushed me away from actually getting to know Christ, because in my head I'm like, my issue was they're not telling me to do it Jesus' way, they're telling me to do it their way.
Yeah.
And the way Jesus's way, the way he put it was so smooth and so easy and with little complications, so easy that the way they put it, I was like, actually I don't want to do this. You guys can keep it. You guys can keep it. Like whatever you said is gonna have to be let happen. Now I'm going, I'm like, oh, chill, relax.
Yeah, like it was actually never that deep.
It was not that deep.
It was never that deep. Like you didn't need to bang on the bench. You didn't need to hit the bench.
Yeah, like children.
And the thing is that remember, Jesus left the 99 for that one. You banging the bench is not motivating. Like let's say there are 10 people on this bench and there are 3 praying earnestly to God and there are 7 sleeping on the bench. You banging the bench and disrupting the person who is connected to God is not going to, it's not helping the ministry, because these 7 people who are sleeping, I promise you, after you walk away, they're going to go back to sleep.
That's a very good point. Because
the thing is, like, humans are autonomous. They free will. They're going to choose. They're going to make the decision that they want to make, right? So you banging the bench is only distracting the people who are already connecting with God, who are communing with Him, who are communicating with Him. And now that I step back and I think about it, that was never really the way to go. Like, obviously, there are different ways to motivate people and like engage people and like be like, oh, like pray and all of that. But I don't think you should be praying rather than banging the bench. Why aren't you praying to God? And I understand that is your service to God. However, take time and pray. Kneel down at the bench and pray. Kneel down at the altar and pray rather than shouting and shouting and shouting. Pray, pray. And this is not mocking you. This is just telling you how we felt when that was happening to us. You don't need to bang the bench. I promise you, you don't need to bang the bench. Those that are praying are praying. Those that are sleeping, unfortunately, are sleeping. And no matter how many times you bang the bench, they're going to still fall asleep. Because why? They are sleepy.
The point you brought up about disturbing the people praying is such a good point, because I remember, I think about like GS2. Because I know GS1, you're just following the rules. You're not even like really feeling the.
That's by the way, GS1 is grade 7, GS2 is grade 8.
Okay. Should I say it as like the grades?
Yeah.
Okay. So like by grade 8, that's where the story is. But in grade 7, it's your first time in the whole, like, in this new environment. You're just going with the flow of whatever they tell you. By the time you're in grade 8, you're actually feeling the motions. You're actually like, oh, I'm actively choosing to pray because I've listened to the sermon and I'm deciding to pray to Christ, right?
Yeah.
I remember specifically the thing that literally made me hit that actually y'all can keep this whole thing you got going on, y'all can keep it, was I remember the time when I was like seriously, like I was actually praying like out loud for the first time. I wasn't yelling, of course, but I wasn't doing my little quiet prayer that I do under my breath or whatever. I was actually praying out loud, and I was praying. I felt like I was actually getting to a point. And then they started hitting the bench. And my thing is, you usually go up there, and you go up there with whoever you sat with, right? And half the times that's your friend. Now my friend is sleeping on the side. I have my journey and they have their journey. I'm not the type of person who will be like, yo, they're horrible because they were sleeping in church. I could care less. You're your own journey. You figure it out when you figure it out. Now they're hitting the bench because my homegirl's sleeping. I turn to this lady and I'm like, it's fine. It's okay. But I'm trying to pray. Like in some I'm literally like, oh, like the banging. This one was like, but the people, she didn't even like explain to me. She just yells in my face, pray, pray. And I'm like, you know what? You guys can actually keep it. I think from around that time, because I remember like the next couple like church services I went to, I did pray and I did partake. I was even more likely to pray when there wasn't one of the people who hover around you. Yeah. Like I'm more likely to pray.
And one thing I never understand is the idea of them separating boys and girls. Now, I understand. There's a belief that you thought you were protecting the girls and the boys, like protecting them from being separate, because then nothing can happen. Like there's no collabo, nobody's colliding. However, do you know what you have done in the long run? You have severed. How would I say that? That's like you've like stunted the growth of a person in one way, because like they don't have that interaction with the other sex. So like with the other like gender, the opposite gender, like as a woman, I don't have that interaction with the man. And because I don't have that interaction, or like I'm scared that, or like if I'm seen talking to this boy, they're going to expel me. Scandal! It's giving Bridgerton. Like I'm. Like, why? Like, it made no sense, absolutely no sense to me, because, like, I'm like, one thing I feel like as a parent I would never do is stop my child from interacting with the opposite gender, because I feel like that builds not only confidence, but it also builds, like, the rapport where like, when you see that, like, someone of that same gender outside, you can still have that confidence to speak to them. You can still have that confidence to interact with them. Like, you don't see interacting with them as a sin, and you don't see interacting with them as a crime,
Or
basically.
novelty.
Yeah.
Because novelty leads to when you view interacting with someone as novelty, by the time you interact with them, the interaction is off. You're not interacting with them as a human being.
Yeah.
You're interacting with them as a novelty, like a special item.
Yeah, exactly.
You're seeing this boy as a special item because they're a boy.
Oh, yeah. Like,
you're like, oh
I've never
my
seen
God,
one of these before.
I'm talking to a boy.
I'm talking to
outside
a boy.
of the time we're allowed to. Oh my God.
It's wild to me. Like I feel like that's something like, especially like schools in Nigeria. I feel like that's something they need to fix up on, because here they would never. Would never.
I feel like they think they're making like you mentioned, protecting the two sexes from
mingling,
engaging
interacting,
in anything untoward.
Yeah.
But it actually encourages them to engage in things untoward.
Yeah.
Because especially the age group they do it for, 10 to 16. Maybe 10 years old, you're like, that is still a child.
Yeah.
A child. The moment they hit the tweens, the moment they hit 11,
13,
10,
14.
They're in the rebellious era.
Yeah.
You tell someone who is 13 not to do something and they do it and they laugh at you while doing it. It's literally the thing I explained to you. They hit the point of rebellion, and it's not the best age point to be telling some not to interact with a boy, because you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna do worse, sir.
And like, honestly, they're just interacting. Like, how bad could it be?
Literally.
And I've heard like conversations where it's like, oh, like, why are you guys talking at night? Like, what are you guys talking about?
I'm like,
sorry, what can't we talk about?
How messed up is your mind?
But like when they're saying, hi, how are you? I cannot answer you. I cannot answer them because I'm scared that they'll expel me. Like, it makes no sense. Like, why can't I say, I'm good, how are you? Or like check up on can I borrow your book tonight? I'll give you back tomorrow. Don't talk to me, they'll expel me.
Oh my gosh.
It made no sense to me. Or like when like they'll be like, oh, like this person is coming, and then you see people running. Scattering around. I was like, it was, now that I step back and I look at it, it was never that deep. It was never that deep. It was never that serious. Like, what? Like, why?
You know, in grade 9,
unnecessary.
When they do like the special, the special things to judge, like the home experiments.
Oh yeah,
or like the art stuff.
Yeah.
And so because of that, you have to
be with the boys. Everyone is
outside of school time, because school time is the only time where
you cross into the night.
So it's nighttime and you're around the boys, and now the interaction you're having with this dude, you're not no more interaction. Because me, normally, if I'm interacting with a dude, I'm not somebody.
It's that time of the night. You can't talk like that.
I'm not somebody who's a boy crazy person.
Yeah.
Now that I've interacted with boys like normally, if I'm interacting with a boy and it's at night, I'm gonna keep interacting with you the same a level and amount of times that I'm interacting with you in the day.
Yeah.
Because it's not special just because it is night.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But back then, because it was the first time at night that we were allowed to congregate at the same gender. Apart from that, we had to separate, because I remember in my set when it was when we were in grade 9 and we were doing the experiments, and so we had to actively collab. We were talking our mouths off just because we were interacting with dudes. People were doing everything to get attention just because, like I explained, novelty leads to doing things untoward.
People trying to get the boys' attention.
Literally, because you're now in the setting where you're like, it has to be now or never. This is the only time where I'm ever going to talk to them at night. And because the authority figures have told you interacting at night is something that's special, now it's the only time you've ever interacted at night. You're like, since it's special, I have to do something special. I have to do something special. They have to remember. We have to talk about this another time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, do you remember what this person did? Do you remember when she did that? Do you remember when he did this? In order night. Do you remember that one time? It was so crazy when we did that experiment. Because mind you, to this day, I'm still a geek. So I don't have anything untoward to talk about. So I'm talking with you about art. I'm talking with you about anime. But because it has to be, I have to talk to the absolute max level. Now I'm rambling off.
Yeah.
And there's now some authority figure who thinks I'm talking about something untoward.
Yeah.
I'm asking this boy what he thinks about Goku defeating Psyche K.
Like, it was
and no
never
person
that
doesn't
deep.
understand what that conversation means. Did you understand what I meant?
No clue. No, because it was never that deep.
It was never that deep.
Never that deep. It was never that
jungle. It's a different social jungle than the outside world.
100%.
Because it is literally accessible. In the sense, not because it's bad, but in the sense that everything that happens in there stays in there.
Period.
And you are specifically influenced by what is happening in there.
you're not.
And it doesn't affect
You're
what's
not.
happening outside.
You're not even like in tune with like what's happening in the outside world. Like you don't even care
Yes.
because you're like bored. You're like
Yes.
chilled. You don't have access to social media. You don't have access to anything.
Yes.
You just have access to the people
Inside. Whatever is popular inside there is what is in.
Yeah.
And now you're being influenced by only the people inside there, which is why I refer to it as successful. We are literally stagnant water.
Yeah.
Do you remember KBT?
KBT.
The drumming thing, right?
Oh, KBT.
Yes.
Oh, KBT. Okay, yeah.
Right? If I tell anybody who's outside of our school
they're
that,
like, what is KBT?
Like,
and they're like,
insane.
What is that?
That was not a thing.
Yeah.
But that was a thing to
For
us.
us, yes. Yes.
We had trends. We had a hierarchy.
And like some people wouldn't dance to KBT because it wasn't classy. And like people
That's what I was going to say. There was a social hierarchy that didn't make sense to the outside world.
Yeah. So yeah, they're 100% a social hierarchy. Like they're like the people, like I guess like popular,
but
popular, but not
maybe
like
popular inside there may not necessarily make you popular in the outside world.
Yeah. But like the funny thing is like people, a lot of, not everyone because I can't speak on that, but a lot of people I know who were popular inside were also popular outside because they had brought things that, like, let's say when you go on holiday or something, that was the only time you got to leave school, right? When you're on holiday or like midterm breaks, you get to go outside, you socialize with other people who are also back from holiday too, right? You bring those things back into the school.
Whatever is bringing something new,
that's the only thing that's coming in new. That's the only thing that's coming in fresh. And when you're the one on top of the trends, then you're like you're in the higher part of like the social.
Let me rephrase
hierarchy.
What I said before. The people who were popular in the school were popular outside, but people who were unpopular in school were not necessarily unpopular outside.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I meant to say. So because of course people who are popular are social. So when you go outside into the world,
they'll still be social. Yeah.
But the people who are unpopular in the school, they were not necessarily as social. But it doesn't mean that they're gonna go outside and be strange. You're not strange just because you're not able to catch up to whatever is happening in the cesspool.
And there was definitely a system, like you said, there was a system, and like it might not have been obvious to some people, but it would, but like if you have eyes, you would see that there's
you clock it
soon and be like, oh wow, like these people don't hang out with these people, and these people don't hang out with these people, and like even if they hang out, like you're like obviously it's never that deep. You know what I mean? Like these boys don't date these girls. These boys date these girls.
I think I was about should I expose myself? About in grade 9, around that time when I realized that I was what was it? Grade 8. I think grade 8 teetering on grade 9 was around the time where I realized that I was socially in the position where I would be considered popular, even though I didn't realize it in like grade 7. And especially I'm the type of person where I'm like, if I realize I'm popular, I'm actively trying to change it.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily because I think I'm like it's bad to be popular. I just don't want to be restricted to labels.
Yeah, labels.
And so the moment you tell me,
like, why can't I talk to them because they're not like literally in the crowd? Like, but I enjoy talking to them,
right? I only realized because there was a dude I was interested in, and he was interested in another girl, and somebody referred to me, and they were like, why would he be interested in her? She's not so. And in my head, I'm like, now I gotta defend my op.
Yeah.
It's not like she was even my op. Now I have to defend my rival.
Yeah.
I have to defend the girl I'm going up against. Because I don't believe what you just said.
Yeah.
I don't think he shouldn't like her because of the specific thing. Yeah. I want him to like me.
Yeah.
But I don't think you should diss her because she's not in this in crowd.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was... The gag is, I was friends with the girl. I was friends with that girl because I didn't consider social status was not something that I decided was something to restrict me from being friends.
Yeah.
And I think that was like by the time I got to like grade 10, which was my last year in the school, anyways. I started to do have the most. I feel like if the school was Hollywood and I were a celebrity. I'm not saying I was a celebrity. I was on the lower end of being in the popular crowd anyways. But if I was a celebrity, I was making some very insane PR choices. I was in the most insane friendship combos.
Yeah, I feel like I never really like deeped that there was like I was like kind of clueless to the idea of there being like a social hierarchy till someone pointed it out to me and was like, oh, like something, you don't hang out with us as much anymore because you're hanging out with these people. And I'm like, oh well, I never actually deeped it like that. I never intentionally decided that I wasn't going to hang out with you because I wanted to hang out with these people. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like a, oh wow, let's think hard and deep about this. I think I just gravitated to people who gravitated towards me, and like
Whoever you're having the most fun with at the moment is who
like
you're. At the end of the day, you were just a child.
Yeah, I was just a child.
Whoever's
Like,
most fun.
I was never deep in it that much, but like obviously, like I also hung out like because at that point in time I was with this boy, right? And obviously, like because I'm with this boy, I'm going to be talking and hanging around the people he's hanging around and
yes.
talking with and hanging around. Like it's not by force, but like I think that was just what naturally happened because like this is this person, this is her boy, this is her girl, blah blah blah. They're together. This is my friend, and they're with this person. I think it's just a natural thing that happens where like
now you all hang out together.
We all hang out together, and then it's just like and like what can I say? What can I say? I'm a good looking girl, you know. Get into it with a T. Anyways, but like I never liked the idea of like there being like and especially because when people start viewing you as someone who's like quote unquote popular or quote unquote
unpopular
is almost like labels, and when labels come
restricted.
You're being restricted, and then you start carrying in your head like, oh wow, like everyone probably thinks I'm popular now, so like if I'm popular that means I can't be seen hanging around with these
you can
people.
do specific
I can't
things.
do certain things, like I can't date this person, I can't date that person because stop
that meant
it
nothing to me.
Stop that, please, you're stressing me. Because the thing is that I never really dipped it that much till people actually started pointing it out. Do you get? And it's when people start pointing things out, you become hyper aware of things. You get so aware of things, you're like, oh wow, like what if this person starts thinking like, oh, like I don't want to hang out with them because I'm with this person, or like it doesn't make sense.
My thing is, I knew people were doing it. I knew people were actively doing it because they were, even when people would come in new to the school, like let's say in grade. Me saying I noticed, yes, I did notice in grade 8. That is when I noticed, 100%, not grade 9, because there was like grade 8 was around the time when new students would still come. Like I mean, new students came every single year, basically.
Yeah.
But in grade 8, there was a huge influx of newer students.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't understand. In my set, at least. And you notice how it, like, basically you used to. I'm always like trying to pick apart patterns, and I think that was the first time in grade 7 you're new, so everybody's new, so there's no pattern fully established.
Yeah.
People. So by the time you enter by the time you enter grade 8, where there's already an established pattern, so there is like a social hierarchy now. Now there's an established, you're in this group, and this person is this group, this person is in this group. When you realize that, and people come in new and they're trying to figure out where
they can fit in, yeah.
And then because they're trying to be part of the popular group, they decide to lean on the way of meanness, because they decide, if I leave out enough people, I will be the cool one, because leaving out people inherently like lifts you up in some way, especially when you're younger, because you're not like, by the time you're an adult, if someone starts being too mean, you're like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Let's walk away from them.
Yeah. Like,
but when you're younger, the person who's throwing out the disses and making everybody laugh is the funny one. Yeah. You're not thinking about the fact that it's weird that this person just starts picking on that person. People.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I noticed that when it's like, there were certain people that were the objects of those, like this super tall girl who, she can be clumsy sometimes and she doesn't have the best grades, and now they're dissing her because of very niche specific things about herself. And in my head, I'm like, I didn't get the joke.
Yeah.
And for me, there's certain jokes that I'm a laugher.
Yeah.
If I don't get the joke, I'm going to be like, I don't fully understand the joke. And I think when I started realizing the joke wasn't actually a joke, it was just a ploy to be in with the popular crowd, I think that was my first like turn on to be like, oh, you're in a position. You're in a position right now that isn't. It seems like the best position, but according to your own standpoint, your own morals. Of course, I wasn't thinking of as complexly as I am thinking about it
now. Yeah.
But back then, I was like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be. I don't want
To be associated with that.
Yeah. I don't want someone to think just because I'm in the same group that someone would consider that person in that I would do that.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do that. I would actually be friends with that person because I know that person is actually funny. They actively left that because I don't want to say the person's name out loud because till this day, oh my gosh, I remember it actually actively pissed me off because I know the girl could be annoying.
Yeah.
But every day, everybody's annoying.
Everyone has a degree of annoyance in them.
That's what's sweet about humans.
Yeah.
Because once I hung out with her enough times, and I think it was the level of rebellion where I'm like, oh, you guys love bullying the girl? Well, I'm going to be her friend. Because I need to figure out why you guys would pick that specific girl to
pick on them, yeah. I feel like, the teenagers definitely make like the meanest set of people, and like putting them in like a controlled but uncontrolled space at the same time makes it easier because like you don't have and like being in a boarding school, if you don't have friends, you don't have a support system, you don't have anyone you can talk to, and like we previously mentioned, like you can't contact your parents.
Yes.
So like it's like you don't even have anyone you can speak to about what you're going through.
Social need is very important in the hierarchy of life.
Yeah, like you can't speak to your parents and be like, "Mommy, Daddy, this is what is currently happening to me in school. I don't think I can even tolerate this. Like people in school pick on me, people in school laugh at me." And that's not even the bare minimum of it, because seniors will still bully you.
Yes.
Like I never really got bullied. Like my first attempt of being bullied was when I was in grade 7. That was when I was just starting up in the boarding school, and like I already had a school mother in grade 7. I had like a sister who was in grade 11, so she was like very much up there. She was also like popular. My school mother was popular too, like quote unquote, like what they
according to the system.
According to the system. According to the system, they were popular. When I mean popular, well known, familiar. Everyone was familiar with them. Like everyone wanted to mess with them. Everyone wanted to be around them. So that's what I mean by quote unquote popular. So basically, why I call her sister was because people, like when I joined the school, that was my first year joining the school, and a lot of people were asking her, "Am I her sister? Am I her sister?" Because we looked alike. So we're like, what, that's the guy. We're going to put that as we're sisters, because like I guess she found me cute, adorable, and like she was like, "You're going to be my sister, and we're going to tell people that you're my sister," and that's how it's going to go. And this new girl came in. She was just a class ahead of me, so she was in grade 8. I was in grade 7. Grade 7 is the lowest class. Grade 12 is the highest class. You know the school system. So she came in she was a transfer student in grade 8, but she had like siblings who had come and finished from the school, and apparently they were like boss ass people who were like, oh, like you don't mess with them. And like when you hear tales of like seniors that had come before you, you're like, oh wow, this is how life was then. Thank God I didn't come then. Do you get what I mean? But then she tried to then bully me, and like I wasn't happy. I was like, sorry, what kind of behavior is this? And then I went to go and tell the people who of course are seniors, grade 11. They're just one step away from being grade 12ers, who are the highest peaking the highest like level of people in this school. So they then came to, and they basically dealt with that issue, and that ever since then never been bullied. I stayed in boarding school for 6 years, and in my 6 years never been bullied, because I always had protection at every level, which I'm thankful for. Like I don't take it for granted, because I know many people did not have that, and because many people did not have that, they were so susceptible to bullying from seniors and also their peers. And when I would see things like that happen, obviously I have to lay low, because I'm under protection. I can't be messing around. I can't be putting my mouth in what doesn't concern me. However, when I see how these people are being treated, I'm just like, holy, that is not nice. That is not kind. That is not the way to go. That was not fun at all. And one thing I'm actually very thankful for that I went to boarding school? Like, obviously, like, I feel like along the way I would have probably learned by myself. But like basically taking care of myself and my things, like laundry and all of that fun stuff, I was taught those things in boarding school. So like when I was in when I started boarding school, like my school mother and then the quote unquote sister, the person who like we acted each other as sisters, they I a huge crowd of people. They taught me how to wash my clothes, all those important things, like take care of myself, and like because like I'm mind you, I'm coming from elementary school where my mom does everything for
Yeah.
me. Like
Pack your lunchbox.
my mom packs my lunchbox. My mom like
Your clothes already out.
my mom yeah, my mom arranges my clothes for me or like has someone who does that for me. Has someone who gets my laundry done for me. Has someone who basically does everything for me. So I was basically used to being served. I understand it's a place of privilege, but then going into going into second boarding school and not having that support with me, like someone's not going to be here to lay my bed. No one's going to be here to. Guys, I'm a child. Don't come for me, please. At least in my mind, I was a child at that point in time.
What do you mean in your mind? You were 10.
Yeah, I was 10. I didn't know how to basically take care of myself. Like basically, like and I think my mom tried to get me up to speed because my mom would be like, like just little things, like like this is how you wash your pants, your underwear. This is how you wash it, but not like actually washing my uniform and going to the line and doing all of these things. I was not prepared for this. I was not prepared for this lifestyle. So I'm just thankful that I learned that from them. That was a good thing I learned from them. Honestly, like if there's one thing I'm grateful for, it's like them teaching me how to take care of myself and like me passing that on too. Like I keep emphasizing, I hated the concept of bullying. Like even like I felt so horrible when like boys that I'm quote unquote friends with.
Boys took it to the extreme.
Yeah, boys I'm quote unquote friends with would like bully people, and like the thing is like I like think of the person they're bullying. Obviously, boys and sometimes girls too. They bullied some girls.
Oh my
god!
gosh.
I would think of it and I'll be like, oh my god! Like
you could have just left them alone.
Yeah, like why do we have to?
Is this entertaining?
Like, can you stop it? Like this is not even. It's not even that
This
nice.
is not you.
But I'm just hoping that now that we're all grown up, like I hope they're not doing those kind of things. Imagine if their Twitter thing.
I get icked out anytime someone displays any of those like because I'm like when you're a child you can literally just chuck it up to
your childish behavior.
The way I mentioned what that girl that person did, right? Yeah. And I'm like, but then again, they were a child.
Yeah.
If you do that now, behavior, but I'm holding you accountable.
Now as a grown adult over in your 20s or
I will turn to you and say in your biblical historic age.
Like, why are you doing this? Like, you know better. Like, you've been in the world, you know better. Grown. You know kindness, you know hopeful. You should have. And if you haven't, that's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
Like,
because you don't want to ever be stuck.
I don't want you
I'm not saying I was perfect.
Yeah, I'm not perfect.
There's no way I've been that. It may just be me being complacent to it. There's no way I'm not, like, guilty of partaking in someone's misery, basically.
Yeah.
By not saying something,
or like
or by laughing at something.
Oh my god.
Or by being like
we're not
this is not my business. Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
But my hope is that you would have grown.
Yeah, and learn from it, and like try not to be in those situations. And even if you're in those situations, you're able to call it out.
Yes.
And tell people that like even I'm not telling you call out your friends in front of you can always like pull them to the side and be like that wasn't cool. That wasn't nice. Like I didn't appreciate being there for that and like seeing that happen. And like imagine how the other person feels. Like imagine if the shoe was on the other foot, how would you feel? If that was happening and like everyone was hee hee ha ha about you, like that was not nice. But yeah, thank you for coming on Tribe Talk. It's been nice having you here. I hope we can have you another time if you make time for us. All right, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, subscribe to this channel.
The next video.
Be here for the next video. Who knows who'll be sitting on this couch with me? You don't know. You never know. It might be your face.
It might be Beyonce.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Like, what can we say? What can we say? Okay, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends, and let's get this channel to
500. Yeah, is that the next one?
Yeah, 500 subscribers.
Yeah.
Let's get this channel to 500 subscribers. Okay, this is our road to creating this tribe worldwide. Okay, so please, please, please get on the page.
Do it. Share it.
Please.
Don't prove I'm wrong.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, bye. See you on the next video.
Baby girl, you are so pretty, pretty, pretty.